et notre cœur en filtre et en garde. Ismaël Kanouté, né en France de parents maliens, reconstitue, lui, sous forme d'enquête, le village de ses parents près de Caille, à travers toutes les familles qui le composent et leur connexion jusqu'en France. Enfin, si les connexions immatérielles peuvent se construire sur des souvenirs, elles peuvent aussi naître dans des objets en plastique, comme ces nattes et boires aux couleurs vibrantes détournées de leur usage premier en Afrique pour servir à la prière. C'est ce que raconte une superbe installation du Camerounais Salifou Lindou, où les bois accrochés au plafond diffusent des chants traditionnels.
Et Sarah Tisser, une expo à découvrir sur le site internet de l'Institut des cultures d'Islam.
Vous écoutez RFI Midi.
Vos rendez-vous à suivre à la mi-journée sur RFI. Dans un peu plus d'une demi-heure, c'est Afrique Midi avec vous, Clémentine Pazolowski. Bonjour.
Bonjour Charlotte et bonjour à tous. À la une d'Afrique Midi aujourd'hui, les 10 ans de la révolution libyenne. Nous serons à Tripoli avec notre envoyé spécial. L'actualité judiciaire également avec la suite du procès à la Cour pénale internationale des Centrafricains Patrice-Édouard Ngaïsona et Alfred Diekatom, poursuivis pour crimes de guerre et crimes contre l'humanité. Et puis on sera au Niger où la campagne électorale pour le second tour de la présidentielle de dimanche touche à sa fin. Les deux candidats, Mohamed Bazoum et Mahaman Ousmane, achèvent leur campagne dans la région de Zinder. Reportage à suivre tout à l'heure.
Merci Clémentine, on vous retrouve à 13h30 heure de Paris, midi et demi en temps universel. Et puis ne ratez pas ce soir le débat du jour sur RFI. Christophe Boisbouvier reviendra sur le rôle joué par la France au Rwanda au moment du génocide de 1994. C'est à suivre à partir de 17h30 en temps universel. Dans un peu plus d'une heure sur RFI, place à l'actualité des Amériques avec vous, Michael Ponge. Bonjour.
Bonjour Charlotte. Le Nicaragua, à la une aujourd'hui, on va s'arrêter sur un rapport de la Fédération internationale des droits de l'homme qui vient d'être publié. C'est édifiant, rapport sans appel sur la répression qui sévit dans ce pays, comment le couple présidentiel proche au pouvoir enterre par la
trouve à 13h10 temps universel, mais d'abord restez avec nous, on retrouve la d'Arnaud Pondus dédiée aujourd'hui.
Et que la France soit prête. La France est prête. Et elle est prête parce que nous avons un système de santé extrêmement solide.
Un an que ça dure, un an que la gestion du coronavirus nous laisse une drôle d'impression.
En termes de risque pour la France, et les risques de propagation du virus dans la population sont très faibles.
Quand je vous dis que la France est prête, c'est que la France est prête.
Un an que l'on patauge dans les discours et les...
En population générale dans la rue, ça ne sert à rien.
Et vous savez quoi? Moi, je ne sais pas utiliser un masque.
Il est préférable, dans de nombreuses circonstances, de porter un masque plutôt que de ne pas en porter. Et il me revient donc de le dire et de faire en sorte que cela soit possible.
Et forcément, on est parfois un peu perdu.
If it freezes and I try to stop it, it'll start again. Watch. Yes, there we go.
Crackheads, yeah, this is for you. Crackheads, yeah, this is for you. Drug users, this one's yours. Drug users, this one's yours.
I'm so mad every time I light a fucking joint.
Keep a hooker on every corner, very love. Stick to the rules and check the shit of those that want to talk. Ward pussy, and I show you how the horses walk. I turn fiends to fans, fans to fiends. I'm living a hustler's dream. Still too doped up, the breed, I need some weed, and that's enough coke for me. For all the crackheads, yeah, this is for you. For all you. For all the crackheads, yeah, this is for you. For all you crackheads, yeah, this is for you. For all you drug users, this one's yours. For all you drug users, this one's yours. I'ma sell rock to the sell love, keep a hooker on every corner, every block. Stick to the rules and shake the shit of those that wanna talk. Walk closely and I'll show you how to muscle rock.
It's one motherfucking problem after another. They just start dumping. It's not a proper hat. They're just overloading shit. Most basic
for all the crackheads, yeah, this is for you. For all you crackheads, yeah, this is for you. For all you drug users, this one's yours. For all you drug users, this one's yours. I'ma sell rock to the sell lots. Keep a hooker on every corner, every block. Stick to the rules and shake the shit of those that wanna talk. Walk closely and I'll show you how the hustlers walk. I turn fees to fans, fans to fees. I'm living a hustler's dream. Still too doped up, the brain, I need some weed. And that's enough coke for me. Plus I took 2.5 cats a day. And now I'm feeling like spitting it free. I'm feeling like spitting it free. Just spitting it free.
Yeah, all the bad cows that me where they shots at, where they shots at. But think phone days in the country don't like rap, that's a fact. I put buttons to front teeth on that. Matter of fact, where they at? The NTC ain't coming back.
But it's all G, you know me. When I'm in the truck to see, I love the drive. We make you bets on whether or not we gon' survive. Up doing 95 on the wrong side. And they say we doing nothing with our lives. I'm surprised that that lasts this long. I always imagined I would die alone. But I guess that's just how the story's told. No one makes money off hip-hop, I'd rather sell coke, I don't steal though. I ain't no fucking thief, I ain't robbing motherfuckers in the streets. If I'm doing dirt, I'm on the doorstep with a 20 piece. Screaming the first one for free. I made money, man, any way that I can. From 100 grand to the last $2 bill in my hand. Every cent came from a fee. They bought my t-shirt, my shoes, and my jeans. So excuse me if I dedicate my life to these things. He said that hip-hop just a waste of his time, but he was hip-hop on 20% of the time. Yes, he's non-stop, 80% of the grind till his heart stop. Can't blame him for trying. He said that
I got something with my heart. The doctor's gonna tell me.
Hip-hop only 20% of the time. Yes, he's non-stop, 80% of the grind till his heart stop. Can't blame him for trying. You can't blame me for trying. In the end, I'm just a mental patient, patiently waiting, back and forth pacing, wondering if it's my turn next to see Satan. The world is cold and hell is hot. My whole life is all about not getting caught. Till my heartbeat stop, I'ma sell that rock, making chops. Put my middle finger up, screaming fuck the cops. Yeah, fuck the law. You end up with a busted jaw for repeating what you saw. My arms reach.
Oops. That was a reflexive click. That's okay.
Headache from a cold? This isn't how you get relief.
What?
This is.
What the fuck?
I'll
fix the whole stops right now. Why not do that?
I hope you're ready to go on and drugs in the craft. I was born and raised in this trap. I'm a slave to my ways. Fresh off the cage, already driving around with the gauge. Ready for anything. Cause you never know, some days it's the money, other days it's the blood. There's no blood. Next minute you're a fucking ghost. Yeah, keep cracking them jokes, keep hitting shit quick. I pop something, have your bones slowing down shit quick. Keep the beans lined up from here to next week. Just give me your money the next please. Before I knew about the road to peace, I knew about the grand keys. And when I sleep, I count things. When I dream of money and all the shiny things that it comes with. I wasn't sleeping on the streets, refused to stay at a shelter. And living in a jacuzzi room at the Delta. But the struggle's never over for the soldier. When I'm drunk or sober, I ain't stopping when the police try to pull me over. So when you play, we don't pray. You can find a body dead in the alleyway. In the streets, so when you play, we don't play. You can get stabbed up in broad day. In the streets, so when you play, we don't pray. You can find a body dead in the alleyway. In the streets, so when you play, we don't play. You can get stabbed up in broad day. In the streets, so when you play. In the streets, so when you play. I claim I'm real cause this track ain't the realest shit I ever did. Been over gang violence ever since I was a little kid. It's all fun till the sun sets and then it's gone. I seem to have the same calm every morn. I try to form my kids with every chance I get. You never know what my mission next 5 days. Christmas says it's a fucked up world we live in. Mama told me keep what you want and work for what you give it. Never would have thought I could do what I've done. 5 G's around the neck, 2
She's on the picking with hand on the gun. It's quite a journey to get to where I am. The road is long and never winding. Still was not the shadows that burn me. It's the black gun in the hand and the mask man that wants to hurt me. I'ma keep my head low while I'm working. Cause the purple wanna beat my ass and it's the only thing I know for certain. Motherfuckers still running their mouth. Like we did not just run in their house with the gun in their mouth. Screaming to let the kids come out. Fuck that, we burning it down. Motherfuckers best to watch their back is PK. Every single fucking day of the week, alright? Motherfucker, don't close your eyes, don't go to sleep, I'm there. The streets are when they play, we don't pray. You can find a body dead in the alleyway. In the streets are when they play, we don't play. You can get stabbed up in broad day. In the streets are when they play, we don't pray. You can find a body dead in the alleyway. In the streets are when they play, we don't play. You can get stabbed up in broad day. In the streets are when they play. In the streets are when they play.
Everything I'm asking you to and not do, that's all. You're damn noisy for animals that should have adapted to being stealthy. I got them damn near domesticated. They just don't realize I want them to live in the friggin' mouse house. It's not a cage, it's a mouse house. Sewer, some of them are, I think. Oh, it's gonna blow my butts. Hold on. Fucking hacksaw already. Damn it. So you'll take me to the next video automatically, but you can't start this one unless I let you start it with the sound off. Thanks. That's a useful set of options.
Details of my life are quite inconsequential.
Like you're
Oh, no, please.
Bag or just in your hand.
Roll with that ambition, my whole childhood I've been on a mission. Reading up the habits of the mission. Only takes me a second to throw the clip in. Lick shots to get the dip in. To be wise to listen. I'm just a crack dealer, rolling in a cuss jackal. At the bow to the gang sign thrown at you. Up the 22, my come up when you were born at you. See around here, we do more than we happen. First we shoot you, then we stab you. In the murder cap, the cops don't care what happened. That's why I'm stick to the gang. And drug trafficking, they say my destiny is hell. And then I have a shit for every one of my crack sales. I say fuck it, tell the devil to prepare me a cell. I keep my ear to the streets, keep my ear to the streets. Lose sleep or agree, but it's all I need. Keep my ear to the streets, keep my ear to the streets. Lose sleep or agree, lost already speak. Keep my ear to the streets, keep my ear to the streets. Lose sleep or agree, but it's all I need. Keep my ear to the streets, keep my ear to the streets. Lose sleep or agree, lost already speak. I'm on this road, and I don't know where I'm heading. Got a feeling it's a dead end till I stroll. The last entry of a lost soul. They've got a cold shoulder. Now I'm on my own, a cold soldier. Let's see walk with me, judge me not. I have to rock and blaze weed. If I'm not supposed to, maybe Lord, you should come and take me. Bring an end to this shit, chasing dreams. Till the end, I'll be shit chasing with my team. Making it by any means. Heaven seems so far. When you selling what they selling, it's so small. When I say to go, Lord, I'm a soldier, till my soul burns. It's harder to this cold world. I'm worried about how the end turns out. I'ma ride till the sun burns out. Everything in this world gets swallowed by time. Money makes the world keep my head in the street. Keep my head in the street. Lose sleep or agree, but it's all I need. Keep my head in the street. Keep my head in the street. Lose sleep or agree, lost already speak. Keep my head in the street. Keep my head in the street. Lose sleep or agree, but it's all I need. Keep my head in the street. Keep my head in the street. Lose sleep or agree, lost already speak. Motherfucker.
Yeah.
Fucking internet gangsters. Real talk, man. You know you fucked up, right? Real talk, B. Come on. Talking hard on YouTube and shit. What you thought was gonna find out, nigga? Come on, man. Come on. I'ma show these niggas the real cold red, man. Yeah. Now this a cold red. What the niggas laid out? What you talking about? The same shit that they played out. What these bitches straight scrub? What wanna be thugs? What now who you think you fucking with? This is heavy dub. What now this a cold red? What the niggas laid out? What you talking about? The same shit that they played out. What these bitches straight scrub? What wanna be thugs? What now who you think you fucking with? This is heavy dub. What? I hate a real shit talker, man, you run your mouth. Cause my neighbors be the one to run up in your house. And don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. Cold red on the internet talking loud. But I don't see you in the streets or the fucking club. Yes, you fucking broke, that's why you get no love. You gotta get some money before you even get a hug. But girls can't stand you as you looking like a scrub. So when dub, what up? We 1323. We live it up on the streets and we staying with our heat. Your bus is all bad cause your natives can't compete. I have to bleed and I'm falling from the bullets in the heat. So keep talking shit on the fucking internet. I catch your ass in the streets, I'll leave your chest wet. And if you're thinking about running and hiding, wearing the vest, I got a chopper that'll rip apart that fucking head. What the niggas laid out? What you talking about?
Arrangements are being made for a public funeral ceremony on Saturday.
See what happens when you run your mouth. See what happens when you run your mouth. You better lay down. You don't wanna die. Just give it up, man. You don't wanna die. You better lay down. You don't wanna die. Just give it up, man. You don't wanna die. Yeah, you look empty and cold, addicted to gold. With that life like anything could be sold. The tragic story told, but behold, a child on his own, alone with nothing but his thoughts and his plan to get him home. In these wastelands we roam, a soldier with a cell phone in the pocket full of pieces. I'm a slang, though it all falls to pieces. Father, forgive me, for I am a sinner. I know also what I do, but that's enough talking to you. I got chops to attend to my lifestyle. Got me picking the windows from the window, ready to shoot you. I don't know no man to be bulletproof, but I do know killers that got shit to prove. And sometimes I'm feeling out of control. I wanna take a shotgun and I'm low, and I know it don't take much to make these fake fucks fold. So tuck your chain or get rolled, cause around here there's certain places you can't go. And now that you're here, just do what you're told. If you lay down, you might be let go. You better lay down, you don't wanna die. Just give it up, man. You don't wanna die. You better lay down. You don't wanna die. Just give it up, man. You don't wanna die. Yeah. Fucking lunatics to show you how to rule against both. Booty you love, but I come shooting, I am true to your home. We quick for you and you go, using aluminum chrome. I let the Ruger go and love the deuce and we low. We shooting you in your home. Clickers, your crew is a joke. Releasing loose and explode. Flip fucking crew will get smoke. Go off with tomb when you're done. Go see your tomb with a bomb. Go see your crew is done. We shooting up the funeral home. And won't they doing nothing new? They got a truth to be told. Who really know? It's just like the sun of Bruce and the crow. Fuck with my homies, I ain't shooting you, it's gruesome and slow. The only way you eating food is through a tube in your throat. Attaching them to with the boots and rolling loose to your choke. I live with flipping, sipping fluids in the tune of your world. And you gon' make it up to heaven's gate, it's loosing to go. My bullets send you down to Hades in a Lucifer's road. Nobody really give a fuck cause you was doomed from the go. Wishing to live ain't coming true when you still losing your soul. When you inducing and producing, just abusing the code. Prostitute It's beautiful but cold, like a rusty roof from the snow. No, I'm delusional, my fuse is lit as soon as we explode. I'm twisted sicker than a skittle that got bit by Cujo. Smell some shit that you know, I'm talking you in the zone. The 22 is getting loosened like the screws in the dome. You suckers. Just give it up, man. You wanna die, wanna die. You better lay down. You wanna die, wanna die. Just give it up, man. You wanna die, wanna die.
Useful time. What the fuck is happening? It was one click. What the fuck is happening? Texas freeze raises cost of charging a Tesla to $900. Oil price, that is .com. Sounds like it. Indoor pools. Indoor pool. You have indoor pool. Indoor pools and movie theaters.
C'est de punir un peu la présence turque avec le soutien des Émirats et un petit peu sur le plan diplomatique de la France, a instauré un blocus pétrolier qui a duré 8 mois et qui a coûté 10 milliards de dollars. Donc, il faut imaginer un pays qui, comme tous les autres pays de la région, subit une crise économique du fait de sa guerre civile, du fait du prix du pétrole qui est bas, du fait du Covid et ainsi de suite. Et par-dessus ça, il y a eu 10 milliards qui ont été réellement jetés par la fenêtre grâce, en tout cas du fait du maréchal Haftar qui tenait un petit peu à faire des représailles contre la Turquie de cette façon-là. Donc voilà, les caisses ne sont pas vides, c'est un pays riche qui a beaucoup de réserves de dollars, mais ne peut pas non plus se permettre de faire des dépenses excessives. Donc vous avez raison de souligner la crise économique.
J'aimerais qu'on revienne avec vous, Jalal Archaoui, sur la chute de Mouammar Kadhafi. C'était la fin de 4 décennies de pouvoir. D'abord sa fuite, puis sa capture. Il est tué dans des conditions un peu sordides, dans un égout au bord d'une route. C'est un véritable cataclysme, ça, pour le pays, mais pas seulement.
Non, c'était pas un cataclysme. Il y aurait pu avoir exactement les mêmes épisodes que ceux que vous avez décrits très justement, avec une amélioration juste après. Il n'y avait rien d'inéluctable dans cette décennie. Il faut vraiment que vos auditeurs imaginent la décennie comme une succession d'excellentes opportunités pour la paix qui ont été systématiquement ratées.
Comment ça s'explique, ça ?
D'abord, c'est un pays trop riche, c'est un pays trop bien, qui a un emplacement trop enviable, avec une population trop petite, avec une population trop unie sur le plan sectaire. Il y a trop d'avantages de ce pays qui était donc sous l'égide d'une dictature, celle de Mouammar Kadhafi pendant 4 décennies. Et donc, il était un petit peu en retrait de ces logiques internationales. Et puis, une fois que cette dictature a été cassée, eh bien, les Libyens ont commencé à s'arracher le pouvoir, comme vous l'avez dit au début, mais aussi la même logique, une logique tout aussi myope et aussi égoïste était visible de la part d'États étrangers. Et je ne parle pas que des Émirats ou que de la Russie ou que de la Turquie. Au début, il y avait aussi un rôle assez répréhensible qui a été joué par le Qatar dans les premiers mois, la première année, et puis d'autres acteurs aussi. Donc,
saying anything more than that, I just don't understand it. It was like that series in the 80s with Linda Hamilton and Ron Perlman. Wasn't that Beauty and the Beast? I think it was called Beauty and the Beast.
Same two guys. They've been up all fucking night.
Ron Perlman's, he looked like his father was Bert Lahr from The Wizard of Oz. The Cowardly Lion. I don't know. Staff at the Australian National University in Canberra, Australia have been encouraged to ditch the terms mother and father, and I am so tired. That's all I got to say. The father will now be referred to as the non-birthing parent. The mother will now be referred to as the gestational parent.
I hope you're fucking
The new handbook also recommends the term breast or chest feeding or human parent milk instead of breastfeeding and mother's milk. And it's all about non-gendered language, which is apparently important in clinical and abstract academic discussion of childbirth and parenthood. It is not official policy according to the university, but this one little part of the university would like to basically stop the misgendering, the isolation, and the harm that transmasculine parents and non-heteronormative families face. Did I say I'm tired? I'm tired. Let's go to the skies. For GuildhallWealth.com, a check of chopper traffic. Once again, Kimberly Fowler.
Well, like you said on the Gardner, so very.
Or at jonesday.com. And from Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, which means they always put clients' interests first. Fisher Investments, clearly different money management. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
You're going to be coming to us Sunday when there wasn't much.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Noel King.
And I'm Steve Inskeep. After last week's impeachment trial, some Republicans want to move the party beyond Donald Trump. Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell said the ex-president was responsible for the attack on the Capitol. Nebraska Senator Ben Sass voted to convict, but he told us yesterday some Republicans are moving in the other direction.
There is a move at county and state levels across the country to have the Republican Party focus even more on the personality of Donald Trump, but I don't think that's healthy.
In North Carolina, the state Republican Party voted to censure Senator Richard Burr, who also voted to convict. State Party Chairman Michael Whatley joined us to talk about it. What did Senator Burr do wrong?
Well, look, I think the party was definitely concerned with the senator's vote to convict in the impeachment, particularly after he had said and voted that it was unconstitutional.
That I can understand, although the Senate voted on the constitutionality and found it by majority vote to be constitutional. So he certainly was allowed to proceed on that basis, wasn't he?
Well, look, I mean, he certainly was. And I think the key for the Republican Party and for the hundreds of activists and party leaders that I've talked to was pretty universal displeasure, disagreement with that particular vote. You know, as a member of the Senate, you have the absolute right to vote your conscience how you feel. But at the same time, we felt that it was important to put out a statement saying that we disagreed with those actions.
Did you agree with him on substance that the president was responsible for provoking the riot on January 6th?
I think that what we saw on January 6th was absolutely horrific. It was beyond the pale. But at the end of the day, the people who attacked the Capitol bear the blame and the fault and the responsibility for attacking the Capitol.
Does the president bear any responsibility for lying to them for months about the results of the election, including on the day of the riot?
Well, I think the president certainly felt and still feels that there was massive voter irregularities across the country. And we certainly saw evidence of voting irregularities, of election counting irregularities in a number of places around the country.
Okay, there's several parts of that I want to follow up on. First is the facts about the election, and I think you know them. All 50 states certified the results of the election, Republican and Democratic officials. More than 60 court rulings did not change the result of the election. Many of the judges did look at evidence, so it would be false to say the courts did not look at the evidence. There were recounts in key states like Georgia. So any claim of meaningful fraud here would seem to be obviously fraudulent. Do you agree with that?
Look, I was a member of the Electoral College, and I cast my vote proudly for Donald Trump here in North Carolina. But, you know, the Electoral College did vote, and they elected Joe Biden, and that's the way that the Constitution lays it out for us here in, you know, the United States. So I have no heartburn.
Do you agree with Mitch McConnell's statement that the people have spoken, that this was the voice of the people electing Joe Biden?
Yes, and I think that was represented by the Electoral College.
You say that you think the president somehow believed what he was saying, but he made these false statements for months. Do you not think that had anything to do with people's decision to go and attack the Capitol, saying as they did it that they were doing it for Trump because they believed what he told them?
Look, I believe that the actions of those people who attacked the Capitol lie on those people who attacked the Capitol.
What do you say to people who will listen to this and see it as simply an act of fealty to Mr. Trump, personal fealty to Mr. Trump?
Well, look, I think we as a Republican Party, we saw the election here in North Carolina, where North Carolina delivered 2.75 million votes for the president. We saw that, the Electoral College and the various states that submitted their slates to the Electoral College said that was not enough and that Joe Biden won the election.
Yeah, but I'm asking about your vote of censure for Richard Burr.
You know, the concerns that were raised by the Republicans that I talked to all across North Carolina were that they disagree with that vote, particularly in light of the fact that the senator had already said and voted that this was an unconstitutional proceeding.
Can you imagine anything that would cause the party to criticize former President Trump? Can you imagine anything he could possibly do?
I mean, I don't even really get the sense of the question that we're talking about. So no, I think look, I mean, if the president were to act in an illegal manner, I think that would probably be something that we would want to address.
We followed up on that statement, and if you listen closely, you can faintly hear Watley's spokesman suggesting an answer. So if there were criminal charges against the former president, that might change your mind.
You know, I can't speculate on that.
What would you say if you had a chance to talk to Mitch McConnell, the Senate Republican leader, who said there's no question, none, that President Trump is practically and morally responsible because of his false statements and conspiracy theories, and shouting all that into the largest megaphone on planet Earth, as Mitch McConnell put it?
Well, you know, I think honestly, if I were going to have a conversation with Mitch McConnell, I would focus on the fact that we have an election in 2022 and North Carolina is going to have a vacant seat. And I know that he's looking at vacant seats in Ohio and Pennsylvania, and that we're going to have a map that's going to be pretty tough. And I would also focus on the fact that we need the Senate right now to be focused on the American families and being able to get them back to work, their kids back to school, and the economy back on its feet.
I suppose Trump could be a factor in that 2022 election, right? If he supports one candidate or another in North Carolina?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Any candidate that's going to go into an election cycle is going to have to embrace the America First agenda that he put on the table in order to be successful in a primary or, frankly, to be successful in a general.
Does that mean that the party needs to stand behind former President Trump no matter what?
No, I don't believe it does. I think that the party, stands behind what the president did for North Carolina throughout his term, but, there is no fealty test here.
Mr. Watley, thanks very much for your time.
No problem. We appreciate you guys, and let us know when we can talk again.
Michael Watley is the Republican Party chairman of North Carolina. The party censured Senator Richard Burr for his vote to convict Donald Trump last weekend. Senator Burr is retiring in 2022, and the possible Republican candidates discussed for the seat include Trump's daughter-in-law. This is NPR News.
What you got?
Twitter is under pressure in India to block accounts that the government there claims incite violence. The tech company did so, then reversed course, and is now stuck in between defending free speech and keeping its employees out of Indian prisons.
It was a surprise as well as a shock to see such an important social media company actually getting bullied here.
That story this afternoon on All Things Considered from NPR News.
You can actually tell us about this if that was just a teaser. Fucking hell.
Care providers, it can just be insurmountable for them. And then you think about the impact on the family, not just the individual. It's a lot.
All right, with the CMHA and the UBC study that came out, or survey in December, Angela, are you able to break it down demographically? Is this crisis we're seeing right now among all age groups?
It varies by age group and it varies by gender a bit. Women tend to be harder hit right now than men. But men also show signs differently in mental health than women do. But we're all, when you're talking about staggering numbers like this, it's a problem across the board for everyone.
Absolutely. And as you point out, there's just a certain, number of healthcare dollars that can go around. People hear the word cancer and they say, yeah, get that. Are we changing on the mental health part?
Not fast enough. So, we've learned cancer navigation has been prolific across the country, across the world for generations now. It's 1970s and 80s is when it started, and it started in New York City by a man named Freeman. And, they measured mortality rates from those that had access to navigation services. It went from 39% to 70%. And there's a lot of commonality to mental health and cancer in that there's the stigma, there's the same types of things that you need to focus on in mental health, you need to focus on in cancer in order to recover. And that's like diet, sleep, exercise, all those fundamental things that are really hard to change life habits when you're asking to do them yourself. But when you have a personal coach and a navigator to help you through that, you can make huge strides.
This is the cancer surgeon in Harlem, Dr. Freeman.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Angela, it's a great.
You know it works.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, look at the numbers here. 39% all the way up to 70% for 5-year survival rates because of navigation.
Right.
Angela, it's a great piece, and it's, I think, an area of our very, complex healthcare system that I didn't understand. So it was good talking to you. I appreciate it. Stay well.
You too.
All right. Thank you. Angela Johnson, founder, president of Medical Confidence. It's a controversial kind of topic that's going to make people go, wait a second, but racialized adults, should they be prioritized for COVID-19 vaccination? Well, new guidance suggests yes. That in a moment, but first at 7:32. With a check of chopper traffic, once again, Kimberly Fowler.
Mike, we're just over problems here on the eastbound 401 at the 407. A crash cleared away from the left lane.
See how they do it when they identify it.
An EF3 tornado has estimated winds of 160 miles per hour. That tornado destroyed dozens of homes and a golf course community near the beach. I'm Dave Mattingly in Washington.
The numbers say we're 9% of the population. They don't like to count. 9% of the population, 10%. 9% of the population, 27% of the cases. How do they give vaccines for that? What the fuck?
L'histoire a inspiré le film Hôtel Rwanda, s'est ouvert aujourd'hui à Kigali. Paul Rusesabagina est poursuivi pour terrorisme. On retrouve tout de suite notre correspondante au Rwanda, Laure Broulard. La première audience vient donc de se terminer, Laure, et au cœur des débats ce matin, la nationalité de Paul Rusesabagina, mais aussi les conditions de son arrestation et la compétence de la justice pour le juger.
Oui, je le redis, je suis un citoyen belge qui a été kidnappé et je suis un otage ici. Voilà les premiers mots que Paul Rusesabagina a adressés au juge ce matin. Selon la plaidoirie de maître Gatera Gashabana, son avocat, la haute cour n'est pas compétente pour juger de cette affaire car l'accusé n'aurait pas été extradé légalement au Rwanda et le dossier devrait donc être transféré en Belgique. C'est un moyen de retarder le procès, a répondu l'accusation, pour qui Paul Rusesabagina est rwandais du fait de sa naissance dans le pays et de la nationalité de ses parents. L'opposant est visé par 9 chefs d'accusation, tous liés à des faits de terrorisme. Il comparaissait à Kigali aux côtés de 20 autres accusés, parmi eux Calixte Nsabimana, alias Sankara. C'est l'ancien porte-parole du FLN, ce bras armé du MRCD, la plateforme de l'opposition dont fait partie Paul Rusesabagina. Il voulait devenir président du Rwanda. Nous avons lancé une guerre contre le pays, mais nous avons échoué, a-t-il témoigné, en faisant référence à Paul Rusesabagina. Plusieurs diplomates, dont l'ambassadeur des États-Unis, ont assisté à ce début de procès, qui était également retransmis en direct sur les réseaux sociaux. Et la prochaine audience est prévue pour le 26 février.
Merci beaucoup, Laure Broulard, en direct de Kigali au Rwanda. Le Rwanda, où cela fait par ailleurs exactement 1 an que Kizito Mihigo a disparu. Le chanteur de gospel avait été retrouvé mort dans sa cellule le 17 février 2020. Il avait été arrêté 4 jours plus tôt pour avoir tenté de traverser la frontière burundaise. Les autorités rwandaises avaient à l'époque conclu un suicide, une piste écartée par les proches de Kizito Mihigo. Alors 1 an après son décès, plusieurs ONG appellent toujours à une enquête indépendante pour faire la lumière sur les circonstances
cause de son décès. L'organisation Human Rights Watch et le chercheur Lewis Mudge, qui était ami avec le chanteur, sont d'ailleurs en pointe sur ce dossier. Pierre Firsion.
Dans un entretien diffusé ce mercredi sur le site de l'ONG, Lewis Mudge, en charge de l'Afrique centrale à Human Rights Watch, retrace le parcours de ce chanteur populaire rescapé du génocide et revient sur l'origine de sa disgrâce, la sortie d'une chanson en mars 2014 dans laquelle il évoque les crimes commis par les soldats du FPR. En conséquence, Kizito Mihigo passera plus de 4 ans en prison. Malgré sa libération en septembre 2018, le chanteur reste dans le collimateur des autorités rwandaises. Lewis Mudge.
Zito, il était menacé directement par les autorités. Moi-même, j'ai causé avec Zito quelques jours avant, il a décidé d'essayer de quitter le pays. Et encore une fois, il m'a raconté comment il était menacé, comment il était poussé et forcé de dénoncer les opposants de Rwanda, de dénoncer les acteurs dans le domaine des droits de l'homme.
En conséquence, Lewis Mudge et Human Rights Watch continuent d'appeler à une enquête indépendante. D'autres ONG font de même, comme l'ACAT France. Clément Boursin en est le responsable des programmes Afrique.
On s'est rendu compte que les autorités rwandaises n'ont jamais publié un seul rapport d'enquête sur le sujet, ni rapport d'autopsie concernant le corps de Kizito Mihigo. Et donc, depuis un an, on demande une véritable enquête indépendante, impartiale et transparente.
Les autorités rwandaises avaient, elles, conclu l'an passé à un suicide du chanteur, un suicide par pendaison.
Explication signée Pierre Firsion. Et au sujet du Rwanda, un rendez-vous à ne pas manquer sur RFI ce soir. Le débat du jour exceptionnellement animé par Christophe Boisbouvier, journaliste et directeur Afrique de RFI. Il reviendra avec ses invités sur le rôle de la France au Rwanda lors du génocide de 1994. Après les dernières révélations de Mediapart sur le sujet, un débat à suivre donc sur la radio du Monde à partir de 18h30 heure de Paris, 19h30 heure de Kigali. À la Cour pénale internationale, à présent, la suite du procès de Patrice-Édouard Ngaïsona et d'Alfred Yekatom. Deuxième journée d'audience pour l'ancien ministre et l'ancien député centrafricain. Ils sont tous les deux poursuivis pour crimes de guerre et crimes contre l'humanité, des faits présumés commis par les milices anti-Balaka qu'ils dirigeaient lors de la guerre civile entre décembre 2013 et août 2014. Patrice-Édouard Ngaïsona était l'un des chefs politiques du mouvement, Alfred Yekatom l'un de ses chefs militaires. Ils plaident tous les deux non coupables. François Mazet, bonjour.
Bonjour Clémentine, bonjour à tous.
Vous suivez, François, les audiences pour RFI. Et ce matin, le bureau du procureur a repris sa déclaration liminaire, c'est-à-dire la présentation des éléments du dossier d'accusation.
Oui, une présentation qui s'est allongée dans le temps puisque le dossier du procureur contient quelques 6000 éléments, des cartes, des photos, des vidéos et 150 témoins. Tout cela sera détaillé à la mi-mars. Les membres de l'équipe de Fatou Bensouda en ont terminé tout à l'heure en revenant sur 3 événements. L'attaque contre Bossangoa le 5 décembre 2013, puis les exactions commises dans la préfecture de l'Obaï sur l'axe Pécaneuve-Baïki, où s'était déplacé le groupe d'Alfred Yekatom. À chaque fois, un cortège de meurtres, de tortures et d'autres violations des droits humains visant en priorité les musulmans. Et enfin, le recrutement et la formation d'enfants soldats. Pour conclure, le substitut du procureur Kweku Vanderpooy a souligné que certains crimes, comme les expulsions forcées de population, ont encore des conséquences aujourd'hui, et qu'il partageait un même objectif que Patrice-Édouard Ngaïsona, coordonnateur des anti-Balaka, n'a pas empêché les violences, qu'il n'a pas agi en combattant de la liberté, comme il le dit. Ce sont ensuite les avocats des victimes qui ont débuté leur déclaration. D'abord celui des anciens enfants soldats ce matin, et puis ceux des 5 groupes de victimes qui vont se succéder jusqu'à demain.
Merci beaucoup François Mazet, journaliste au service Afrique de RFI.
Inter 96.2 FM.
Dernier jour de campagne électorale au Niger avant le second tour de la présidentielle. Il se tiendra dimanche. Il opposera le candidat du PNDS au pouvoir, l'ancien ministre Mohamed Bazoum, à celui du RDC Tchangji, l'ancien président Mahaman Ousmane. Tous deux sont originaires de la région de Zinder, dans le sud du pays. Et c'est là que les deux adversaires ont choisi de finir leur campagne avec le soutien de leurs militants respectifs. Reportage spécial Magali Lagrange.
Bâtiment blanc, porte peinte en bleu et vert, le nom du RDR Tchangi s'affiche à l'entrée de sa délégation régionale dans la ville de Zinder. Dans la cour, un groupe de personnes. Une femme porte une tenue aux couleurs du parti de Mahaman Ousmane. Il y a aussi Ismaël qui suit son candidat depuis 25 ans et qui participe à des activités avant le scrutin.
Des activités beaucoup plus de sensibilisation
pour voter en faveur de notre candidat afin que la victoire soit en notre faveur. Nous croyons vraiment fermement à la victoire. Certes, il y a une différence au niveau des voix, mais l'engouement des Nigériens quand même à voter pour notre candidat nous rassure.
Changement de couleur à la direction de campagne du PNDS, les affiches sont roses et ce sont des portraits de Mohamed Bazoum qui ornent les murs. Un membre du bureau local est persuadé que les Nigériens sont déjà mobilisés après les élections locales, législatives et le premier tour de la présidentielle. Mais Rachida Adam, qui se présente comme présidente rose de la commune 4, poursuit le travail.
On a fait la mobilisation porte à porte avec les mobilisatrices et les femmes là. Ils vont sortir. Nous, on a confiance à notre femme du parti et à notre jeune du parti. Moi, je sais que c'est le PNDS qui va gagner à 100%.
Les militants ont maintenant moins de 3 jours pour convaincre les indécis. La campagne se termine vendredi à minuit. Magali Lagrange, de retour de Zinder, RFI. Au Sénégal, nouvelle étape de la procédure de demande de la levée de l'immunité parlementaire du député Ousmane Sonko. L'Assemblée nationale a ratifié aujourd'hui la composition de la commission ad hoc chargée d'étudier la demande, mais les députés de l'opposition, notamment du PDS, le parti de l'ancien président Abdoulaye Wade, ont contesté des vices de procédure. Le vote a eu lieu en séance plénière sans public à cause de la pandémie de Covid-19. Pour rappel, l'opposant Ousmane Sonko est accusé de viol avec menace par une employée d'un salon de massage à Dakar. Le président du parti PASTEF, les Patriotes, arrivé 3e à la dernière présidentielle, a refusé jusqu'ici de répondre à la convocation de la gendarmerie tant que son immunité parlementaire n'est pas levée. Désormais validée, la commission ad hoc va donc entrer dans le vif du sujet et demandera une audition d'Ousmane Sonko. Elle présentera ensuite son rapport en séance plénière sur la levée ou non de l'immunité parlementaire. Un nouveau kidnapping de masse au Nigeria. Des hommes armés ont fait irruption ce mercredi matin dans un lycée public de Kagara, dans l'état de Niger, dans le centre-ouest du pays. Selon plusieurs sources sécuritaires et locales, ils ont enlevé des centaines d'élèves. Un rapt qui intervient un peu plus de 2 mois après l'enlèvement de 344 lycéens, mi-décembre, dans le nord-ouest du pays. Correspondance à Lagos de Lisa Fabian.
Le cauchemar se répète, le scénario est presque le même. C'est dans la nuit que des hommes armés vêtus de treillis ont pénétré dans le pensionnat gouvernemental de Kagara en tirant des coups de feu sporadiques. Un grand nombre d'étudiants a été capturé sur place. Des professeurs seraient également aux mains des ravisseurs qui ont entraîné leurs victimes dans la forêt. Un étudiant a été abattu lors de l'assaut, d'autres auraient été blessés. Ce nouveau drame survient quelques jours seulement après l'enlèvement de 21 passagers qui circulaient à bord d'un bus, également dans l'état du Niger. Dans une vidéo publiée en ligne, on peut voir des hommes armés de fusils mitrailleurs et d'un lance-roquettes encadrer les otages, dont certains ont été secourus selon les autorités locales. Depuis 10 ans, les bandits établis dans l'ouest du Nigeria terrorisent les populations locales en multipliant pillages et kidnappings. Certains d'entre eux ont aussi tissé des liens avec les djihadistes établis dans le nord-est du pays. Au mois de décembre, l'enlèvement de plus de 300 lycéens à Kankara avait été revendiqué 2 fois par Aboubacar Shekau à la tête d'une des familles.
Use that. Westman on the 4-1 the offense to Victoria.
Ça s'est passé lundi lors d'affrontements entre éleveurs et cultivateurs dans la province du Salama. Information commune.
The music you're hearing is the debut album of a baby girl created by her parents before she was even born. The album Sounds of the Unborn. That's next time on Here and Now.
Playing now, that's creepy. Don't do that again.
Ciao for traffic.
I'm Clarice. Are you famous? Sort of.
The silence is finally over.
Hello, Clarice.
Clarice, new drama, Thursday on Global.
Better sleep starts with the right routine and right support. And with Casper's amazing sleep products, it's never been easier to reset your rest. Because now their winter sale is here and you can save up to 15% on supremely comfortable mattresses and super...
To attempt a Guinness World Record for longest hockey game. An organizer told the CBC it was the coldest game they'd seen. Skate blades snapped, pucks shattered. The endurance was inspiring, but the game was not so dramatic because the winning team prevailed by 121 goals. It's Morning Edition.
Support for NPR comes from this station and from Phil Brandt and Company, committed to guiding university leaders to a successful retirement and beyond. Information about the Phil Brandt Total Solution is at philbrandtco.com. From Cybereason, a cybersecurity company dedicated to helping companies end cyber attacks, on computers, mobile devices, servers, and the cloud. Details at cyberreason.com. And from the sustaining members of this NPR station.
It's Morning Edition from NPR News. I'm Steve Inskeep.
And I'm Noel King. Good morning. Around 500,000 undocumented immigrants live in the greater Houston area, and most of the negative health and economic consequences of COVID have hit them the hardest. And yet in those communities, there is deep mistrust about getting the vaccine. Elizabeth Trovall from Houston Public Media has that story.
2 months into the national vaccine rollout, 60-year-old Houston resident Maria Breceda says she feels like her community has already been left behind. We'll be among the last to get the vaccine, she says. Breceda says she doesn't have a doctor, and like more than 2/3 of undocumented Texans, she doesn't have health insurance. When I asked Breceda if she's gotten information about the vaccine,
No. Nosotros no tenemos nada de información sobre la vacuna.
Breceda says hers and other immigrant families she knows don't have any information. Nobody has knocked on their door about a nearby clinic or mentioned the vaccine side effects. Almost 70% of undocumented workers in the U.S. hold essential jobs. Yet families like Breceda's face several barriers to getting the vaccine. Misinformation, mistrust, and they're less likely to have health coverage. Breceda says the limited information she's heard has been on TV. Her takeaway, only important people with money have gotten the vaccine. But the vaccine is free, and community health workers like Venus Jeunesse are trying to get the word out. Jeunesse says people still have their doubts, like when providers ask for insurance.
Then they get nervous because they thought this was free.
Jeunesse is a promotora in Houston. She says she's helped train thousands of community health workers in Texas to get COVID-19 information to Spanish-speaking communities. She's also set up bilingual hotlines here and in 4 other states. She says she's heard terrible stories, like scam artists calling families in Spanish, saying,
just give us a charge card or have this money available so we can hold your spot. You can only hold it for 20 minutes. Do you want to get the vaccine or not? You know, that pressure.
She says people also worry getting a vaccine could create an immigration problem. The Trump administration's public charge rule made it easier to deny visas to people likely to use public assistance. The rule is now under review. Kaiser Family Foundation's Samantha Artiga says getting a vaccine won't count as a public charge or impact immigration status.
But clarifying that information directly with immigrant families is going to be really important for helping to address these potential fears and concerns.
Local politicians are trying to dispel these myths. On Houston's Telemundo station, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia told viewers the vaccine is safe.
Es segura, es rápida, y es confiable.
Harris County launched a $1 million bilingual media campaign to promote the vaccine safety, including this radio ad.
Hola, Condado Harris. Soy la autora Rivera del Departamento de Salud del Condado.
But it's hard to measure whether these efforts are working. Most states don't track racial, ethnic, or immigration status related to vaccines. Those that do report that communities of color are less likely to get the vaccine. And in Texas, early polling data reveal hesitance to getting the vaccine, especially within Black and Brown communities. 30% of the state's Latinos say they likely won't get the vaccine, citing concerns about safety and side effects. For NPR News, I'm Elizabeth Trovall in Houston.
This is NPR News.
For example, you've got one mutation that might say, okay, we're going to make this variant of the virus a little more transmissible. You've got another mutation that says, oh, we're going to make this variant of the virus less likely to respond to vaccination. And you stick them together, and now you've got a more transmissible virus that's less likely to respond to vaccination. This is, I mean, for those of us in the business, like, this is what we see, this is what happens. For the general public, like, you know, what are you going to do? The same thing we always do. We're going to wear a mask indoors. We're going to, you know, have well-ventilated indoor spaces, wash our hands, physically distance ourselves, get the vaccine when it rolls around. And I think we also have to keep in mind that the vaccines still work, right? The vaccines that we have access to Canada, they still work. They still will prevent severe infection and death. They'll actually lower your risk of getting the infection as well, which is also a plus. And that all the vaccine companies are already updating their vaccines to keep up to date with the circulating variants.
All right, variants are that's the word now of the month and into March as well. And I'll just refer to them from origin. The British variant, the South African variant. Dr. Bogosh, I'm hearing that because of the higher level of transmissibility, we may all have to move to the N95 masks. That these colorful masks you can buy at the convenience store ain't going to do the job anymore.
Like anything else, I think it's important to be open-minded, to be careful, to also be skeptical. We've heard from the head of the CDC in the United States discuss that, based on emerging data, the key thing is mask fit, right? So number one, put on a mask. For starters, put on a mask. And that's less of a problem in Canada, but it's still a problem in parts of Canada. The second thing is make sure your mask fits well. And that means it's got to be snug over the mouth and nose. Now, some people say, does that mean we all have to double mask? And the head of the CDC came out and said, no, you can, if that helps a better mask fit, but you can also just wear a regular mask that fits well. And the third, so wear a mask. Number two is mask fit. And the third thing is wear a high quality mask. If you go on the Public Health Agency of Canada's website, they give you explicit instructions of what a high quality mask should be. There's 3 layers. Sometimes you can add a little filter in there. It's not just putting a t-shirt over your face like that. Those days are over. Now, does science change with time? Absolutely. Will there may be some pivot or adaptation to these, guidance, to this guidance? Maybe, there might be. But for now, I think this is a very reasonable approach. And if we need to pivot, let's pivot.
Is this the kind of a race we're seeing now that I would want to bet on? A race against time, as Dr. Banerjee calls it, to get the vaccines out as quickly as possible, because there looks like, do you believe there will be a third wave?
I think it's so hard to predict. And on the one hand, of course it's possible. Of course it's possible. We've got a significant proportion of our population that is not immune because of, as bad as this has been in Canada, we still don't have widespread immunity from natural infection. We don't have widespread immunity from vaccination. So we've got a ton of people who are at risk of still getting this infection in the country. And on the other hand, we've got kids going back to school and various economies opening up throughout the country. So yeah, I mean, it's a perfect setup for a third wave. Having said that, is it inevitable? It's not. I mean, we know who gets this infection, where they get this infection, and how they get this infection. And we know how to prevent this. So, for example, in Ontario, there's what's called the emergency brake, right? It's part of the reopening. And currently, we got to still focus on what happened, right? Between early January and now, plummeted. Like they have. They've totally plummeted. They went from over 3,000 cases a day in the province to around 1,000 cases per day. Like, obviously headed in the right direction. We are not out of the woods. We've got to proceed carefully. But if we use that emergency brake in the reopening wisely and carefully, and they pause reopening whenever you see a plateau or a bump in cases, we'll be okay. We will. We truly, truly will. But if you don't use that emergency brake, if you reopen too quickly, yeah, I mean, I think it will happen. It certainly will happen. So we have the tools at our disposal to avoid a third wave. The question is, will we actually use them? And of course, it is preventable. It is avoidable. There is no need to have a third wave. But now we have to see how carefully we proceed.
We just need an owner's manual on how to apply that emergency brake. They don't seem to have a plan.
Well, I mean, the interesting thing is in Ontario, for example, we have that color-coded system, which just to be honest, in and of itself, I don't think would be enough to protect us. But I think if they apply that emergency brake in a very swift manner, and if they apply it appropriately, I think we at least have the tools at our disposal. Look at North Bay. North Bay is an interesting scenario. They had the big outbreak of a variant of concern. That was the one that originated in the UK in North Bay. And that area is in the gray zone. They're still in a lockdown zone because of that. So, I think that's emergency brake application done well. But are we going to see consistent application application of this emergency brake. And it's basically the chief medical officer of health in consultation with the local medical officers of health to determine, when and how it should be applied. I really think if they're smart and they do this well, we can avoid a third wave. Maybe you have a wavelet, like a small wave, but if you don't do it smart, if you don't apply it in a quick, key is quick, right? You got to stay 2 steps ahead of this virus. We know how explosive these outbreaks can be. If they apply it quickly and stay 2 steps ahead, I think we'll do okay. If they don't, we know what's going to happen. We've already seen it happen twice before in Canada.
Yeah, and I got to get off Wikipedia because I did a deep dive into influenza variants yesterday, and influenza A H791 or N9. In 2018, they said it would likely be the one strain of influenza A that would be at pandemic level.
Is that the one I had?
So, I know we're talking about COVID, but yeah, influenza, there's only a handful of things scare me in infectious diseases. And pandemic influenza with a virulent strain, like a bird influenza that mutates to be more transmissible between people, like that's scary. And
because the
there was
virus knows
a while ago,
that you have in your head.
maybe,
Oh,
I
I'm
don't
not
know, a
supposed
few
to
weeks,
go to
maybe a couple
those
months
types
ago.
of cells.
I
virus
think even Dr. Michael Ryan, who's with the WHO, was saying, like, yes, we all get how bad COVID-19 is. Like, we get it. It's terrible. It's awful. But I'm going to paraphrase here. He's like, this isn't the big one. Like, this is, as horrible as this is, we dodged the bullet. Because, like, it's as awful as this disease is, most people survive, right? It's still awful. I'm not underplaying how terrible it is. But you can imagine if you had an influenza strain that kills, 15 to 20% of people it infects. Oh, my God. This would be even a much bigger colossal disaster.
And that's why I thank my stepson for getting me Stephen King's The Stand for Christmas. That bugger's 99.4% morbidity rate. But anyway, always a pleasure to catch up, Dr. Bogosh. We'll talk soon.
Actual numbers from the last
All right, take care. Dr. Isaac Bogosh, infectious diseases physician. Yes, you're reading it as well, are you not?
Yeah, even before this started, I started a couple pages and then I thought, oh God, what did I get myself into? But it's pretty good.
Captain Trippz. We'll take a break. We'll get the latest from Kimberly on the roads and Dave in the newsroom and more of the morning show, Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
You've been denied your long-term disability or cut off by the insurance company. Before you call a lawyer, discover your rights at disabilityrights.ca. Fight back against the insurance company and get what you're owed. Find out how at disabilityrights.ca.
I want to see the city. All these
scoring free gas sure feels like a win. Hi, I'm John from Speedy Glass. And when you book a windshield replacement with us online, you'll get a $25 e-card to score free gas. At Speedy Glass, you'll also feel like a winner knowing we install high-quality glass with cutting-edge technology. And we'll fully sanitize your car with our unique 30-contact point process. That's win-win-win. Don't wait. Book your replacement online today at speedyglass.ca.
Speedy Glass Replace.
If there's one vehicle made for winter in Canada, it's a Subaru. Whether it's rain, sleet, or snow, symmetrical all-wheel drive works full-time to give you all the traction you need to be safe on the road. And if there's one dealership ready to help you through this winter, it's your local Subaru dealer. By ensuring all safety protocols are in place, we've made shopping for a Subaru.
Powered by KCRW.
Avec elle, le caveau familial. Fantasque, ce récit intitulé Ce qui reste des hommes montre la vitalité d'une écrivaine aussi gaie que désespérée.
Littérature sans frontières. Catherine Fréchon-Toussaint.
Vendredi, à partir de 13h30 TU.
RFI. Session Lab, un podcast réalisé en son 3D par RFI Labo. Avec un simple casque audio, découvrez ou redécouvrez vos artistes préférés en son spatialisé. De choc et de retour thriller. Session Lab s'invite à Marseille chez IAM dans leur studio La Cosca. Une conversation en toute intimité et en audio 3D à découvrir dès maintenant. En podcast sur RFI Mudrock. Abolition MC, mettez le plaisir d'abord.
RFI 14h, à Paris 13h en temps universel.
Julien Coquel-Rohem.
Bonjour à tous, à la une de ce journal, l'appel à l'unité du nouveau Premier ministre italien Mario Draghi. Il présentait ce matin son programme au Parlement. Il veut reconstruire le pays durement frappé par le Covid et appelle à une Europe plus intégrée. Vous l'entendrez dans un instant. Il y a des manifestants qui veulent se battre jusqu'au bout et la crainte.
Here's Kimberly Fowler.
Well, right here on the eastbound road at the South Kingsway, no problem. Your stall vehicle blocks the right lane. Now we did.
It was two different damage.
What's he promising? And across the country, local fire departments report an increase in arson cases. Correspondent Martin Costi explains it may be tied to the pandemic. It's Wednesday, February 17th. Michael Jordan is 58 years old. And the news is next.
Every fucking reason in the book for there to be arsons.
Live from NPR News, I'm Corva Coleman. The National Weather Service says another significant winter storm is bringing even more snow and ice to the south and east. Conditions are catastrophic in Texas, where millions of customers have gone days without electricity or heat. At times, temperatures plunged to around zero. Joey Palacios of Texas Public Radio says people began losing power as the first winter storm moved in.
On Sunday and into Monday, it was snowing in Texas, and that is really rare. The cold weather caused two things to happen. Power plants started to fail, and second, the cold caused the demand for electricity to spike. And that reduction in power, combined with the jump in demand, caused the near collapse of the state's energy grid.
Joey Palacios reporting from San Antonio. Americans are struggling through freezing temperatures, and so are migrants on both sides of the U.S.-Mexican border. Texas Public Radio's Maria Mendez reports on efforts to help migrants without warm shelters.
The Catholic Charities Respite Center welcoming migrants moving through the Rio Grande Valley lost power due to the winter storm hitting Texas. The center in McAllen received generators from local authorities, but Sister Norma Pimentel said they are sheltering more migrant families than usual because their journeys to other parts of the country were halted by the inclement weather.
It's really stretching us, but we're still there for them.
She said they are also working to help migrants braving the cold storm in tents across the border in Matamoros, Mexico, providing blankets and other supplies to stay warm. I'm Maria Mendez in Laredo.
The National Weather Service winter storm warnings extend east to Virginia, and temperatures remain frigid. States from Nebraska to northern Minnesota have warnings that say wind chills could plunge to 25 degrees below zero or colder. President Biden took his push for his nearly $2 trillion coronavirus relief plan to Milwaukee last night. NPR's Giles Snyder reports Biden says Congress needs to take action.
President Biden told the socially distanced audience gathered inside Milwaukee's historic Pabst Theater for the town hall broadcast by CNN that now is the time to spend.
That the overwhelming consensus is, in order to grow the economy a year, 2, 3, and 4 down the line, we can't spend too much. Now's the time we should be spending.
Biden wants Congress to send him the $1.9 trillion pandemic relief bill before key federal unemployment benefits expire in mid-March. The House is expected to vote on the bill next week. While Republican lawmakers have expressed sticker shock, Biden argues that it would be far riskier to go too small. Giles Snyder, NPR News.
Biden also said that his administration will get 600 million COVID-19 vaccines to Americans by the end of July.
How many?
You're listening to NPR. Health officials say cases of the coronavirus variants first seen in South Africa and Brazil have now been found in India. NPR's Lauren Frayer says it's prompting India to step up COVID-19 vaccinations.
India claims its vaccine campaign is not only the biggest in the world, but also the fastest, with 9 million doses administered in the past month. That's still a tiny fraction of India's nearly 1.4 billion people, though. So far, only health and frontline workers are eligible. Officials say they're quintupling the number of vaccination centers ahead of opening to the general public next month. India's demographics skew so young that the elderly category for vaccinations begins at age 50. New COVID infections had been plummeting here, but last weekend, Maharashtra, where Mumbai is the state capital, saw its highest single-day tally in more than a month. Another lockdown could be coming. Lauren Frayer, NPR News, Mumbai.
People in Myanmar continue to turn out in city streets to protest the military's overthrow of the democratically elected government. Hundreds of thousands of people are rejecting the military junta's claim that the public backs its coup. Reports from Nigeria say gunmen have kidnapped a large number of students from a school in the north-central part of the country. A number of boys from the boarding school were abducted overnight. It's not clear who the assailants are or how many boys were taken. Nearly 7 years ago, a group of Boko Haram militants kidnapped nearly 300 Nigerian schoolgirls. Not all girls have been freed or escaped. I'm Corva Coleman, NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include 101 Studios, presenting Dara of Yasinovic, based on the true story of hope and survival during the Holocaust, as told through the eyes of a child, now playing in select theaters.
The bootleg crude oil refining business.
Snow moving in by the afternoon, a high reaching -3. The wind making it feel a little cooler though, and flurries will stick around through the day on Friday, off and on. High again of -3, and then sunshine with the clouds on Saturday and a high of -2. Right now we're at -11 with the wind, feels like -16 in downtown Toronto. I'm Dave Bradley. This is Global News Radio, 640 Toronto.
10349. Northwood Mortgage. Incredible rates and
Clé. Sur ces images publiées par la BBC, on peut voir le vide.
Cases. 2 weeks, 39% reduction in the number of people hospitalized, 32% reduction in the number of people in our ICUs.
That's California Governor Gavin Newsom yesterday at the opening of a new mass vaccination site in Los Angeles. The decline in cases is welcome relief for Los Angeles County.
Okay, South Africa, there are at least 150 more of them out there. What you got to really worry about is what Dr. Bogash talked about, the recombinants. And that is when the two viruses marry, and each of them carry like a really bad part of their personality, and all of a sudden the household now takes on the dual personality, and they aren't the positive personalities. That aside, I am somewhat concerned because I know kids are kids, and he's almost 13, so at least he's got the common sense to keep a mask on. But you know what they're like.
Yeah, I mean, they talk to their friends, they take it off, whatever, they're outside.
They're talking,
like, why are you wearing a mask, man? Like,
yeah,
kids at school, who knows?
I don't know if there's going to be a lot of peer pressure on him, but, he waits for the bus, he gets on the bus. I know they've reduced the number of kids on the bus. I'm just saying, I'm just a little bit concerned because I keep reading about third wave, I keep reading about variants, which is why the province has set up this plan for its larger school boards like Peel, like Toronto, to target COVID-19 testing in at least 5%. That's 5% of elementary and secondary schools. They want to reach 2% of the student population weekly. This was announced by Education Minister Stephen Lecce yesterday. A memo that calls for testing outside of Toronto, York, and Peel to begin February the 22nd. And the requirement took effect in those three regions today because of obviously the student population. So the way it reads is school boards with less than 10 schools will not be subject to the 5% target. There will be somewhat of an appropriate testing plan for those communities. The schools targeted for testing will be chosen with support from the ministry and local public health units. It will consist of a combination of the rapid antigen test as well as the gold standard, the PCR. They'll look into less invasive methods of testing where possible. I've had the test 3 times when I was in hospital. It's not pleasant. I can't imagine for a kid the gag reflex is going to be a lot of you-know-whatting. So maybe they can do it through saliva. I don't know. But there are steps the boards have to follow to set up the testing initiative.
Tell you your
And I don't know. This just seems doomed to not matter. It's doomed to not matter. The point is, I think they want to catch the asymptomatic, obviously, individuals, and kids tend to be a lot more asymptomatic than adults. But it doesn't mean a whit if
their noses are always
parents
running,
aren't
so you
doing
never
their
notice.
job. And this was part of the problem when the kids came back to school earlier in the fall. Was, yeah, the schools were doing this, and they were cleaning their hands, and they were, being separated. They were wearing masks on school property. It was off school property. It was lunch. It was recess. And it was after school. I mean, if your kid is coming home an hour after they're supposed to be home from school, they've been somewhere. They've been to another person's home. And if you don't, keep an eye on what your kids are doing outside of the classroom, then any asymptomatic testing at any school board ain't going to mean a thing. But that was the memo the province put out yesterday to try to placate those concerned people like me about the kids going back to school. And I keep hearing about their mental health, and I completely understand it, and their lack of socialization, and I completely understand it. And the fact that some kids just can't do the online stuff, I understand that as well. But it's still a concern. And that eroding trust that a lot of us have, especially those people who have an eroding trust in science, because one day they'll read something extremely positive, the next day they'll read end of the world stuff. They're concerned that's going to hamper the rollout of the vaccine in Canada. Well, hampering the rollout of the vaccine in Canada right now is due to the complete botching and bungling we've seen at the federal level, and there's some provincial responsibility. But a survey by a communications company found that eroding trust in scientists, CEOs, and journalists could hamper the rollout. Edelman found trust in scientists was down 6 points compared to last year's survey. Trust in the academic experts is down 16 points. CEOs, I don't know why they're part of this, but CEOs, their trust fell 5 points, probably because, well, they've been doing pretty well economically during this hell. And journalism, they're down 4 points. Found that half of Canadians say that business leaders are purposely trying to mislead people by saying things that they know are false. 46% believe government leaders are doing the same thing. And that really underscores, I think, a struggle that a lot of people are having about what information can we trust, what sources are credible, and what aren't. 1 in 5 Canadians say they have what's called good information hygiene, which includes engaging with the news, avoiding the echo chambers that you find in a lot of social media groups, and most importantly, verifying information. But how do you do that as a layperson? I don't know how you do that if you don't understand what variants are. 73% of Canadians with so-called good information hygiene are willing to get vaccinated ASAP. Those people with so-called poor information hygiene, that they don't try to confirm information, that they take part in these, whether it's a Facebook group or a Reddit subthread, they only have 59% willingness to vaccinate. That's a gap. That's a pretty 14-point gap. That's not small. Okay. Doug Ford's getting blasted. I don't even know why I have to continue. Because he swung by Hazel's place on the weekend. Hazel McCallion, longtime mayor of Mississauga. She was 100 on Sunday, celebrated her centenary. And congratulations to her.
Literally the difference between 4'8" and 6'1".
Now look at this tweet. Shame on you, Ford Nation, and the rest who gathered while people are arrested for holding a sign. So here's an anti-masker. Here's one of these Adamson barbecue people who will show up and talk about government tyranny and I'm not wearing a mask, going after the premier for visiting Hazel McCallion. Someone else wrote, I'm surprised John Tory was not there. Where were the mounted police? Do I see a barbecue there? Another Adamson person. So from now on, when we protest with a sign, we will just say, we're having a belated birthday party for Hazel. I'm looking at the picture. Doug's got a hockey jersey on that says Hazel 100.
Fantastic.
He's got what looks like an 8. I don't know if it's his 8 or Hazel's 8. Looks like he's in her driveway.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a mask. The 8 has a mask. Another 8 to the right, I don't know if he was security, has a mask, and Hazel doesn't. But they're standing, you see the picture.
Yeah.
Does that look like close contact?
Yeah, a little bit. Definitely not 6 feet.
Yeah. I'm more taken with the pink flamingos on her lawn.
Oh, I just noticed those now. Yes, very nice.
They add a little tropical vibe to Casa McCallion against the backside of the snow. It's quite nice. So Ford goes to Mississauga from his home in Etobicoke on Sunday to wish her well. And there were also apparently a bunch of people who stopped by during the day. And then the anti-maskers start losing it. Really? One guy writes, despite telling people to stay at home and only gather with those you live with, Doug Ford traveled to another city to gather with people from several households on the same afternoon as this tweet. Ford's never-ending hypocrisy is infuriating. Yeah, because, I mean, the Premier did put out a Family Day tweet saying, thank you so much for staying home, Ontario. It's working. It's not like they're sitting in Hazel's living room. I know last year on her 99th, they had like a whole whackload of people coming by. They had, it was like a parade almost. That didn't happen this year for obvious reasons. Although if anybody's going to kick COVID, it's going to be Hazel McCallion. He doesn't suffer fools gladly at all. People were celebrating outside. Give Hazel a break. So someone writing or tweeting, this is why Twitter's useless. It just becomes this screaming fest. Someone else, no. Ordinary people are getting fined for this same shite. Forget Hazel. She no doubt was able to jump the line and get a vax just like Ford. That's the hypocrisy for me. How does a 100-year-old woman jump the line for a vaccine? This is insanity. This is, well, you did this and you did this. I heard a story on the way in this morning that there's some judge who got special permission. It's a judge in a Superior Court west of Toronto, maybe Milton Superior Court, who got special permission not only to travel to the Turks and Caicos, but actually do Zoom hearings from the Turks and Caicos.
Wow. Must be nice.
Nice deal if you can get it.
Yeah. I don't know how good the Wi-Fi is there.
Apparently, though, the Chief Justice of Ontario, the court system, found out and said, no, that's not happening. How do you like to be the defendant showing up on the Zoom hearing, from wherever the hell you're being kept, maybe even Maplehurst, the Milton Hilton, and your judge is doing it from like this, beaches resort in Turks and Caicos?
Background, birds.
Like the sound effects they were putting behind Rod Phillips.
Yeah.
As apparently there were people saying, yeah, we heard Rod, we could hear the beach. You could almost hear the steel drums. But I don't know. Doug stops by, fully masked. It looks like they were Hazel's aides because there's a follow-up picture where Doug's walking back down the driveway and the two other people are next to Hazel. But she stands alone. She's not wearing a mask. It's just like, you're telling us to stay at home? You're telling us we can't get barbecue? But you're showing up? I don't know. Some other good news. I was reading yesterday, India, which at one point seemed to be in a race with the United States to become the most infected planet on Earth with COVID-19. They've seen a remarkable decline in cases. And they're not quite sure. I mean, you're talking about a country with 1 billion people. There could be undercounting. It could be, the rural areas aren't being represented. Or, on a more positive note, they may have achieved herd immunity already because it spread so quickly. Because of, the huge cities and the...
True, yeah. I didn't think of that.
It could be, but it was just one of those positive stories you get to read on the day where people are arguing on Twitter about whether Doug Ford should have stopped at Hazel McCallion's driveway to wish her a happy birthday. Anyway, we will take a break. We'll come back in a moment. We're going to talk to the CEO of Advantage Canada, about rapid testing. Apparently, some advocates are afraid it's going to add to the strain on long-term care. That's when we return on the morning show with Mike, Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
Beyond the hashtags and headlines, Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
Sometimes the city can get a little too hectic. The city living can get a little too crazy. Well, Rob wanted to leave that lifestyle in Toronto, consider moving to a couple of areas in rural Ontario. He contacted Frank Leo and Associates of Remax for some guidance, and Frank and his team are willing to talk to anyone, even if you're not thinking of selling or buying right now, about conditions in the market. That's what he did. Rob was put in contact with the trusted partners all over Ontario that Frank has, and he's got a lot of connections. And they were able to find the ideal home near the water at his price. Now he needed to sell his home. He knew his neighbor had a larger, more renovated home, so he was concerned, what kind of money can I get? Well, Frank's guaranteed home selling system went to work, and it worked. 1 week, multiple offers. The property sold for an unbelievable $40,000 more than the neighbor's larger renovated home. That's because Frank has the buyers lined up, and he creates the buzz. You got to think outside the box sometimes to solve your problems. Frank Leo and Associates will show you the secret to selling your home. There's no ineffective open houses, and no home is too big, no home is too small. Everybody's home is their castle, and you should be getting what you're owed. Frank Leo will sell your home at a price and deadline that you agree to, or he will buy it. A total service guarantee in writing. So call the only agent I would call if I needed to sell my home. Frank Leo and Associates at 416-917-5466. That's 416-917-LION, or go online to getleo.com. That's getleo.com and start packing.
The suspect has entered the room. He bends over, ties his shoelace. We don't need a live commentary. Just tell me if he makes a move. He straightens with surprising agility and rotates 45 degrees to the left. Dang, you always just lay back on stakeouts? Stakeouts for states, parent-teacher interviews. He's getting away. What? Oh, police! Can you hold my bagel? Hold my bagel! Freeze!
Pretty Hard Cases. New episode. Tonight at 9:30 in Newfoundland on CBC and CBC Gem. While the road to a successful and happy retirement may seem confusing, a little help can make the journey a lot smoother. Just ask Kelvin the Money Guy for some advice. He can take the confusion out of investment so that RRSPs, TFSAs, the stock market, mutual funds, and pension plans are working for you. Go to askkelvin.ca because a little advice today can mean a successful tomorrow. That's askkelvin.ca. Askkelvin.ca.
It is coming up to 8:23, and a check of the roads with chopper traffic. Once again, Kimberly Fowler.
Well, Mike, here on the eastbound 401 and the collectors at the 404, we had a crash in the right lane, and that was the latest one we were looking at around the GTA. All of our other ones cleared away, and now we are looking at problems off the highways. Northbound on River before Gerard, we have some wires down, so the right lane still blocked off there. Dundas is shut down both ways south of Bloor. This is for a broken water main. And other than that, again, all volume that we're looking at in and around our majors toward the downtown core. It's time to reset your rest with Casper and get the sleep you deserve. Shop Casper's winter sale and enjoy up to 15% off. Visit casper.ca for the details. I'm Kimberly Fowler with Global News Radio 640 Toronto Chopper Traffic.
You're listening to The Morning Show on Global News Radio 640 Toronto.
It is 8:23 on the morning show with Mike. Again, one of those good news, bad news stories. The good news is most long-term care homes in Ontario, where we've seen 3,700 deaths since the pandemic began, most long-term care homes in the province are very pleased that the rapid antigen test is now available. But provincial requirements could add pressure to an already distressed sector, according to advocates. You know, this is the accurate, inexpensive, fast-to-deploy test that takes just minutes to get results. And, of course, no more important a place than a long-term care facility. So while there is happiness that there's going to be rapid testing, it was supposed to begin yesterday, there is a question about the logistics, and that's why our next guest joins us. Lisa Levin is CEO of Advantage Canada. And Lisa, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Mike.
You represent the nonprofits?
I do, and it's Advantage Ontario. We haven't got to all of the nation yet.
Okay, so we're going to demote you from Canada to Ontario. But
yes.
One day you'll get there, Lisa. I know you will. So this is a good news, bad news.
Yes, it is.
Okay, explain the bad part.
Well, let's just start with the good part, which is that, you know, we want to be able to keep COVID out of the homes, and the vaccines are certainly helping. But, and so this test will help with that. But the issue is that logistically, it's really hard to get it going because you need staff to administer the test. And staff is one of the things that our sector has been struggling to get even before the pandemic. So that's one of the major challenges because you have to set up like these mini labs in the homes and test people throughout the day, every day of the week.
It's not like popping a thermometer into someone's mouth and then or ear and just doing the reading.
Well, I mean, it is a simple test, but you have to make sure it's done correctly because you don't want to take any chances, and you have to record it.